Hi, and welcome to our New Jersey Class 5 Retail Masterclass. I'm your host, Dr. Lucas McCann. I'm the CSO of CannDelta. Let's sink our teeth in. As a CSO of CannDelta, I've helped a number of entrepreneurs start their business. We co-founded CannDelta in 2018, and we've been very active in the New Jersey space since legalization of cannabis in 2021. I've helped over 400 license holders, myself and the team, across the US and in international markets, including Europe and in Canada. I have a background in medicinal organic chemistry and work to help commercialize products, help with cannabis licensing, with production, testing, operational support, and business coaching. Used to work for the federal government and have been working as a consultant in the space for some time, helping to guide startups through the regulatory framework involved with launching their cannabis business. Now, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, or the CRC in New Jersey, has provided some free resources for license holders to be able to start this process on their own. Those resources are great, and again, the price is right. However, there's a little bit to be desired from these resources in terms of actually operationalizing the business. So, for the goal of this webinar, we're here to discuss, evaluate, and present some ideas to help guide you through the process of applying through a New Jersey Class 5 cannabis retail dispensary license, and to help to position your business for long-term success. But before we do that, get to know us and the team at CannDelta. We're a team of business strategists, regulatory experts, and scientists who are well positioned to help you not just get a license, conditional or annual, in the state of New Jersey, but also to operationalize your store. Our goal as your consultant is to save you time and money, to shorten the time that it takes, to shorten the time of the burn, which is the time it takes before you make your first dollar and expenses are being incurred, and to reduce the overall build-out cost by making sure that we stay laser focused on what needs to actually happen for you to pass an inspection, acquire your annual license, open your doors, and conduct your first transaction. You can visit us. We have an office in Manhattan and one in Hackensack at 411 Hackensack Avenue, or Suite 200. So feel free to book an appointment with us if you'd like to meet in person. To date, we've helped launch over 400 cannabis businesses successfully since the time we incorporated in 2018. This includes a range of folks across all the verticals and across several other markets, and many, many lessons learned, such that we're often asked for our impressions or our opinion from folks in the media, such as Forbes, Benzinga, MJ Biz, Marijuana Moment, and so on. Again, we've been featured likely because people find our expertise to be helpful and intuitive. Our clients span the range of the verticals, from cultivation facilities, both micro and standard facilities, to processing, extraction of cannabinoids from biomass, the infusion of distillate and concentrates into other products such as confectionaries and baked goods, filling of vape pens, the production of pre-rolls, or even just the packaging of cannabis into cannabis products and finished final labeled packaging. We also assist with helping those processors and manufacturers obtain GMP compliance where required and as necessary. We work with distributors, analytical testers. We work with retail dispensary operators and Class 6 delivery drivers to help them get the licenses they need and set their businesses up for success. So retail dispensary Class 5 licenses in New Jersey are just one aspect of the experience that we have here at home in CannDelta. We were lucky enough to have a big success across the Hudson with the first dispensary from the general application round open in New York, which we're very excited about. We've got some very excellent case studies about Blue Forest Farms and several other New Jersey licensed dispensaries on our webpage. So please feel free to visit CannDelta.com to learn more about how we've helped many other dispensary license holders. Step 1, the decision. What do I want to apply for? With the New Jersey licensing scheme, we can either apply for the micro or the standard license. But which one do I apply for, and what do they mean? Consider this. When looking at a standard versus a micro business, there are some important restrictions that could be placed on a micro business, as the name suggests. First off is the size. The micro business has maximum of 2,500 square feet of operational space that is allowed. There's up to 1,000 pounds of cannabis that can be transacted per month. You can have a maximum of up to 10 employees, but as a trade-off, your fees are reduced by 50% for your standard licensing fees. Further to that, all owners must be currently living in or have lived in New Jersey for a period of at least 2 years at the time of applying and reside in the municipality of the proposed business or potentially an adjacent one if they're in an opt-out area. For standard, we got no size restrictions, no cap on sales, no limit to the workforce, but you'll have higher fees. In addition to that, one owner needs to have resided in New Jersey for at least 2 years before applying. So, do you qualify for a micro? Perhaps it makes sense to keep the cost down. And then, the second question, do I go down the path of obtaining a conditional? Is there still an advantage? Or do I go down the pathway of obtaining my municipal approval and go straight for the annual license? At the beginning of legalization, we saw that there was a huge influx of the number of applicants for the conditional license. Those who were smart decided to go to the municipalities and speak to townships about getting approval. Those went usually directly through the annual license pathway and were some of the first to open in the state. Now that the queue has diminished, there's some important considerations to look at. The annual license will be a great example if you already have a compliant retail location locked in with municipal approval, as that's really the bottleneck in the application process. Your municipal approval and zoning clearance must also be confirmed, and you've completed or are ready to submit all the detailed SOPs, safety, and community plans. You want to skip the conditional phase and move straight to full licensure because you already have your license and township approval. If all those apply, you're in a great position to apply for the annual license and shorten the time, potentially, that it could take to begin your operations. For the conditional license, this can be a great means of resting or getting sort of a resting point that can potentially prove impactful when looking for investors and trying to secure funding. The conditional license is really not much more than an elaborate background check on the entity and the holders of the business. If you need time to secure real estate and local approvals, you're waiting on partners, permits, or capital, and you want to potentially reserve your spot in line while preparing your operations, the conditional license might be the one for you. There are two different paths through these two different licensure pathways that you can acquire access to your full annual license. Do the conditional application, you can then apply for a conditional license, and then do the conditional conversion application thereafter before getting your annual license. Or you can cut down the number of steps and some of the bureaucratic time sinks and apply directly to annual with the annual license application. Both have the same results, ending up in the annual license. Conditional versus annual in terms of eligibility. Now, if you do not have a compliant location and you still want to apply to obtain the conditional, then really you're not able to apply for that annual license, so that might be the best pathway. There's also an income threshold. So those who have an individual $200,000 individual income declared on their tax return, or $400,000 or more as household declared taxes or income, won't be eligible for the conditional route. They'll then need to secure property that's compliant, appropriately zoned, with their municipal approval, and go directly to the annual application. What goes into the application? We have a long list of documents that are required here which have to be completed and assembled to make that conditional application a compliant one. So everything on personal history disclosures, recent resume, tax returns, so your taxes should be in great standing, proof of New Jersey residency, government issued ID, criminal history explanation, if applicable, signed and notarized waivers and attestations. And then an entity disclosure form, business registration, formation documents, and signed and notarized waivers and attestations where applicable. And general supporting documents might include a managed services agreement, financial source agreements, vendor and contractor agreements, a plan to obtain liability insurance, and mandatory plans will include a regulatory compliance plan and a business plan and management profile. For your municipal approval, the next step, you need to confirm, number one, that your town has opted in and will allow cannabis retailers to begin operating. And second, you need to make sure that they haven't reached some kind of self-imposed cap on the number of Class 5 cannabis retail dispensary businesses in that town. Provided that those two things are true, you would be able to go down the pathway of seeking your municipal approval. You would then need to secure a compliant location that meets the zoning and setback requirements. So cannabis businesses often have to be set back a certain distance between sensitive buildings. That could include schools, churches and other places of worship, community centers, and daycares, as well as rehab centers. As part of that application, you need to submit all required local application particulars to the township and potentially obtain attend a community board meeting. You'll then need to engage with local officials in the community, and through meetings and public hearings, you'll be able to plead your case and hopefully have the support of other community members who will speak in favor of your business. You'll then obtain formal municipal approval and submit the approval documents to the CRC as part of your license application. Over 70% of the municipalities in the state of New Jersey are in opt-out status. This map highlights all the areas in red in which cannabis businesses are strictly prohibited. Borrowed from our friends at CannDev, we can see that there are several areas here that have completely opted out from any kind of cannabis business whatsoever. The ones that are listed in purple, in addition to that, are opt-in for medical. Blue is opt-in for recreational. And even fewer are the ones that are opt-in for recreational and would allow cannabis consumption present in their township. The ones listed in dark green have opted in for all forms of cannabis businesses for Class 5 retail dispensaries. That includes medical, recreational, and cannabis consumption lounges. Areas close to New York, to Edison, Long Branch, Vineland, Atlantic City have all opted in for those license types. At the beginning of legalization, there was a process for townships to decide if they wish to opt in for cannabis legalization and allow Class 5 businesses to open up in their township. Once towns opted in, they could no longer opt out. And we are seeing, especially even close to the Hackensack area where our office is located, the desire for some municipalities to consider the opt-in process. This is very encouraging because a lot of regulators have seen, and communities and community boards have seen that cannabis can contribute a significant amount to the economy by way of revenues that are collected at retail dispensary levels and put back into important areas such as infrastructure and social services. The reasons for opting in are great, and if you are in a situation where you are finding yourself in an opt-out municipality, engaging in conversation and attending hearings could be pivotal in helping to sway the decisions of your community members to opt in to cannabis businesses. Each municipality has its own subset of rules that must be complied with when choosing to allow cannabis retail dispensaries to operate in their communities. That can include which businesses, such as which type of licenses, Class 1, Class 2, or Class 5 retailers, how many licenses can be issued, the set rules on the business locations, the hours, and the distance to sensitive buildings, the additional local approval procedures, if any, implementing civil penalties for municipal violations, and they can impose local cannabis taxes up to a maximum of 2%, which in reality is a great incentive for municipalities to consider an opt-in status. And finally, provide input to the CRC regarding preferences for license applicants. Let's look at a case study. Newark. Newark, you have to be 500 feet from all schools, parks, playgrounds, and licensed daycare facilities. However, you only need to remain 200 feet from correctional facilities, colleges, group homes, and treatment centers. And you must remain 500 feet from any other cannabis business location. So that is, 2 cannabis dispensaries must be at minimum 500 feet apart as the crow flies, not as the wolf runs. With the conversion now underway, you'll need to update several documents about your business. You'll need to include the updated POI and business entity information, which could include new tax returns, driver's licenses, and disclosures. With your site approval, you'll need a site plan, evidence of site control, such as a deed or a lease, evidence of local approval, such as a resolution from the township or a letter of support, and a zoning approval letter. In addition to these, you'll also need an environmental impact plan, a safety and security plan, a community plan, a social responsibility and research statement, workforce development and job creation plan. You'll need an LPA or labor peace agreement. This is required for businesses with more than 10 employees. You'll need several SOPs that span the length of the business that speak to everything from adverse event reporting to conducting recalls, and if you are going to be conducting delivery, you'll need SOPs that speak to how you will be doing so. The licensing fees are presented here. Under the application and certification column, we have our conditional license applicant fees and our annual license applicant fees. For conditional, the standard business is $200, whereas the micro business is a $100 application submission fee. Once approved, you'll be invoiced $800 for a standard or $400 for a micro, making the total $1,000 or $500 respectively. The conditional conversion submission fee is $200 for the standard business or $100 for the micro business, and the conditional conversion approval fee is another $800 for standard, $400 for the micro business. For the annual license application, the standard business will have to pay $400 for the application submission, whereas it's only $200 for the micro business. And then upon being awarded, it'll be $1,600 for the standard, $800 for the micro business. Documents required for the annual application include the following. Again, we'll need POI documents, so that includes a personal history disclosure, recent resume, most recent tax return, proof of residency, government-issued ID, criminal history explanation, signed and notarized waivers and attestations. You'll also need licensed applicant documents for the company, not the individuals, which include an entity disclosure form, New Jersey business registration certificate, signed and notarized waivers and attestations, and business formation documents. You'll also need several other general documents like an MSA, Managed Services Agreement, financial source agreements, vendor and contractor agreements, proof of liability insurance, and then many of the plans that are required must be submitted with your annual application, such as a business and financial plan, an operating plan, a description of your business experience, updates to any previously submitted POI or license applicant documents, for example, new tax returns, IDs, or disclosures, a site plan, evidence of site control, evidence of municipal approval, evidence of zoning approval, environmental impact plan, safety and security plan, community impact and social responsibility and research statement, workforce development and job creation plan, and an LPA or labor peace agreement. All the SOPs that we previously mentioned will also be required and could be asked for as part of the licensing process or any subsequent inspection, which include everything from adverse event reporting all the way down to conducting recalls or even deliveries if you are planning to conduct delivery. On our license for sale page, if you're looking to skip the queue and get ahead of all the licensing document work that needs to be done, you can check out CannDelta.com and click on our licenses for sale tab. There, we have several opportunities are presented for licensed operating New Jersey businesses. There you can go, peruse some of the opportunities, ask for an introduction, and see if you can make an offer on an entity that already owns a license. Many of these businesses are cash positive and are generating revenue and profits as we speak. So in terms of quickness to market, this might be an accelerated way to access a Class 5 cannabis retail license in the state of New Jersey. Things to consider when looking at potentially purchasing an entity that might already be operating. When applying for a license, probably the lower upfront cost will be attractive, as buying a license typically is a lot more expensive. You'll be paying for the value in shortening that licensing process. But you'll have potentially more immediate access to operations, as it can be a very lengthy procedure to acquire a license in the state of New Jersey. Regulatory challenges are equal on both sides. There's a complex application package and many regulatory requirements for applying for a license, but the same holds true when you're looking to change the organizational structure of an entity. It requires CRC approval. Having control of your business is great, and you certainly are guaranteed that when applying for a license, but you might inherit some previous owner's structure, limitations, or even some kind of contractual agreements and conversations they might have engaged in prior to your conversations with the seller. From a market position, you're starting at the very beginning when applying for a license, versus when buying a license, you are inheriting an established business with existing customers. And from the risk level, perhaps slightly risk when applying for a license, since there's so much to do and municipal approval is a real bottleneck for our clients when going through the process, versus when you're buying a license in the state of New Jersey, it could potentially have slightly lower risk. You can also see some financial history from some of these folks once they've already established their business to see if it is a real valuable opportunity for you to consider. And then finally, availability. You can always apply for a license, but there are limited market availability options available for sale. Retailers do not require a delivery license to deliver. However, they will require the delivery SOPs to be able to do so. So what you can do with a retail license is deliver cannabis products from your own store to your consumers. You can use your own staff and vehicles for delivery and skip the wait and cost of a Class 6 license. But what you can't do is deliver products from other retailer stores directly to consumers or operate a third-party delivery business. For that, you would need a Class 6 delivery license. Start with a Class 5 retail license, but don't stop there. Also to consider, the Class 1 cultivation license, the Class 2 manufacturing, Class 3 wholesale, Class 4 distribution, and Class 6 delivery, in addition to our Class 5 retail license. We have very elaborate blogs on our website that explain all the intricacies of licensure for each one of these license types. So if the Class 5 retail dispensary license application might not be right for you, it could be one of the other 5 listed on the screen now. Just make sure to contact municipality and understand if these businesses are allowed to operate in your area. Now, do you add a cannabis consumption lounge to your dispensary? The CRC recently opened up the process for existing and established license holders with a Class 5 license, starting with social equity license holders, to be able to add on consumption lounge to their permitted operations at their store. This could help boost in-store sales and make consumers more likely to purchase additional products, as their visit time will be increasing if they're lounging around the store. You can perhaps tap into different market demographics, appeal to social users, tourists, and the canna-curious who are really looking for an experience surrounding cannabis as opposed to just some kind of transaction. And create a space for events and community. You can host events, comedy shows, provide live music, and really turn the page on how we know cannabis experience to be when it comes to consumption. If that's of interest to you, please feel free to contact our office and we can see if adding a consumption lounge could be right for your dispensary. In terms of the application requirements, you will need to have municipal approval, and not all areas that allow for a Class 5 cannabis retail store will allow for on-site consumption. You'll need detailed floor plans which be submitted and show the design, the separation, and ventilation systems of the lounge. You'll need to describe the business and operating plan in some detail and what kind of procedures you would have in place for things like safe consumption, age verification, and emergencies. And then lastly, you'll need SOPs to cover the transfer of cannabis items and destruction of unused cannabis products, ensuring only regulated cannabis is consumed at your site. The application fee for this one is $200, the approval fee $800, making that a $1,000 annual licensing fee for microbusiness, $5,000 for the standard license holders. In terms of what CannDelta can do to help you speed up the process, certainly around the project management piece, we help to optimize your output by making sure we have a great control of the resources. We're here to help you to focus on what is needed next to get through the process. We oversee the entire build-out process. We apply strategic project management to ensure efficiency, compliance, and smooth operations in your cannabis business. Cannabis, again, is an extremely regulated industry, and working with folks who have done this many times before can help to shorten the time that it takes and decrease your overall costs. Of course, sourcing cost-effective materials, working with the right vendors who understand the space is super important, and streamlining your workflows will prevent delays and regulatory setbacks, which will save you money and time in return from day one. We like to work with folks to help design layouts and floor plans to make most efficient use of your space. That can include floor plans, setting up walls, the layout of display cases, and having a strong understanding of what space you have available to be able to construct inventory storage construction and make it a very efficient space with excellent flow. From there, we can assist with HVAC, electrical and lighting, and some plumbing, and we can ensure that your fixtures and equipment are located in the right spots, such as your sales counter, point of sale, displays, and signage we can also help with. Security plans are very important. They represent a huge cost sink and a huge investment for retail stores. We help to design the space from a flow perspective, implement a layover or a layout that includes location of all the security devices, all the way from door contacts to any kind of access control features such as keypads, pin pads, central viewing stations, seismic sensors, motion detectors, visual surveillance such as cameras, dome cameras, pendant style cameras, bullet cameras in and around the facility, so that you have a great understanding of who is moving in and around your facility, as well as the flow of products. Again, access control, the design and construction of your secured storage and location of vaults, implementation of alarms, emergency systems, and again, quality and environment control systems, because you do want to make sure when you're holding product on site that it's secure, but also that we maintain the quality of the product. And a robust set of SOPs is paramount to ensuring that, one, that you get licensed, but two, that you have a guidebook for your employees. Again, bud tenders are entry-level positions. You are only as compliant as your least compliant employee. So having a set of robust SOPs to fall on can help to ensure that you've got a guidebook where folks can review to look up how things must be properly addressed as it pertains to adverse event reporting, recalls, all the way down to delivery. For more resources, feel free to look on our website at CannDelta.com and check us out on YouTube. We have a ton of great list of materials such as videos, blogs, and interviews, case studies with other entrepreneurs who have gone through the process with our help. We'd love to chat with you. You can also fill out a contact us page, or you can get in touch with us at our toll-free number. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We're going to be heading over to our live Q&A session in just a moment here, so please bear with us as we just change rooms. Save your questions, drop them into the chat. We'll be answering those live in the next 2 minutes. We'll see you soon.